If I had confetti, I'd throw it in the air. It's our first anniversary. I can't believe it. A whole year of Groove Diner After Dark. The list of thank yous is as long as I am tall, and I'm pretty tall. But wow, I can't imagine that we've been here a whole year, a season and a half. We're in the middle of season 2 already. It feels like we just started season 2 yesterday, and here we are on, what is this, episode 6 or something like that? Hard to believe. Thank you so much to everybody that tunes in live every week. Our viewership has grown week over week, and as the year has progressed, our impressions have gotten huge, exponential growth. We're averaging between 15 and 20,000 impressions a week now. I can't even wrap my mind around that. So thank you so much to everybody. I'm obviously excited to be here tonight. I can't even begin to tell you what a week it has been and how awesome last week's show was. Getting the interaction that we had last week with all the questions. We had more questions, and I'm thinking I might even answer some more of them tonight if we have some time. But it was just amazing to have the conversation with everybody watching. Thank you so much for submitting the questions in advance, and the ones that have continued to come in this week. Veronica Ebert, I saw a few from you. I saw some from Reggie. I saw quite a few. So thank you so much for all that you've done and for making this show a success. I suppose we have to call it that, don't we? Nobody's more grateful and surprised than I am. Obviously, you've watched the transformation from this. Hi, how are you? to from one iPhone to 2 iPhones to suddenly, we've got 5 cameras and full microphones and all kind of things here. As this season progresses, you're going to see us grow more and more. The production quality and value is just going to get better week after week after week after week. Episodes are going to get more and more rich. It's just been kind of something that I've been wanting to do for years. So thank you for helping me make this a reality. Don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Give us that like and subscribe, and also hit the little bell there so you get notified every time we have a new episode once a week right now. Right now, you just never know. I see over here that Dan is telling you to email us more questions or comments. Please do at groovedinerafterdark@gmail.com. That'll get it right to us, and we can take care of that. Let me see who else here already. Toby, thank you so much for joining, as you always do. It's always great to see you here. Thanks, Toby, for joining in. Charles Anderson, how are things in South Africa, my friend? I hope you're doing well. Who else do we have here right this minute? I saw Barry Halevi. How are you from North Carolina? Thank you very much, my friend. Reggie Douse, thank you for joining us from Texas. Terry Linder, you're right here in California, aren't you? I think I know that you are. Thank you so much to everyone, and I'm sure we'll get our Australian contingency here in just a few minutes as well. Hello, Gina Adams. Welcome to the show. Nice to have you with us tonight. I'm going to let a few more folks join us because I tend to jump in a little quick from what I understand, so I'm going to let a few people say hello before I move us on. But I'll tell you something I was thinking about. Perspective. It's one of those interesting things, isn't it? Gina, she's here from Los Angeles. That's a great segue. Thanks for joining. Perspective. It's really interesting, isn't it? How a tiny little change, a small angle changes your perspective. Maybe it changes the lighting. I don't know. Is that what it is? Changes the way that you see the room. Even if I just look around my studio, if I look at it from this angle versus this angle, it's such a different sort of thing, isn't it? For me. And that little bit of perspective change changes everything that I can see. It changes the way that I feel in the room. It changes everything about the way that I'm interacting. My wife pointed out to me this past week that I needed to change my perspective, and she was right. You hear that? You were right. She's always right. Who am I kidding? And I needed a little perspective change. This week I'm running the show here in LA by myself. Eli couldn't be with us again. But Dan is down in Miami helping us out. Thank you so much. Hey, there's Eddie Tuduri chiming in. Thank you so much. Welcome, Brian McLaren. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's always interesting to me when perspective changes need to happen. And tonight's guest, Eddie Tuduri, we had an immediate rapport. It felt like we had been friends for a long, long time. I thoroughly enjoyed the time we spent with each other. The conversation that flowed off camera was rich, not as rich as his cappuccino, Boy, that was good. He invited us up to his place, and we went up there and really had a tremendous conversation that I can't wait to share with you here in just a few minutes. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. But why am I talking about perspective? Because Eddie's perspective had to change. And my goodness, what he was able to do with his life after he had to make a change of perspective. So we'll be right back after this, and we're going to have a really great conversation. I think you're going to enjoy this one. I'll see you soon. This episode of Groove Diner After Dark is brought to you by Groove Diner After Dark, the store. That's right, starting with tonight's episode, you can tell the world of your love for Groove Diner After Dark by owning official Groove Diner After Dark merchandise. Coffee mugs, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, a pint glass, stickers, and much more can be yours today. Simply go to GrooveDinerAfterDark.com or click the link in this video description and get your gear today. Thank you for your support. I don't know why, I'm just feeling real groovy tonight. Oh, I hit my thing. I mean, it's like, I just kind of want to do this. I'm having a little drum throne dance. I don't normally dance, but there it is. Maybe it was all the intro music. I hope you guys liked the intro stuff. I don't normally listen to myself as I prep for the show, but we decided we wanted to have a little music. Thanks for the idea there, Dan. Hope you enjoyed that stuff. It was really fun for me to put it together. It was kind of a career retrospective for me. Hey, Eli, thank you for joining us, man. I hope you're doing well in the frosty tundra that is Michigan. Oh my goodness, just crazy. As far as the merchandise goes, you guys are doing great. Thank you so much for buying the merchandise and sporting it. I keep getting pictures from people saying, check it out, it's a bumper sticker on my car. Look at my t-shirt. Thank you so much for that. I need to change the voiceover though, Donna, because it started, episodes ago. It's not starting with this episode anymore. Anyway, so let's get on to it. Eddie Tuduri. We're going to talk about so much with him, from playing with Rick Nelson and the number of people, Dr. John and Ike Turner. I can't even begin to go into the career that this man has had. Not only playing, but then he became the founder of the Rhythmic Arts Project, and we'll certainly get into that. The conversation that we had at his place a couple of weeks ago was so good that we felt we wanted to show you as much as possible, which means we split it into 2 episodes. Tonight, you get the first half of it in part 1. Next week, we're going to do part 2. So I hope you enjoy this. I got a quick little snippet. I guess actually I'm going to give you a whole song of him playing, and it was really interesting. I was like, what can I get from Eddie playing? Well, it's nothing, just him playing with Michael McDonald. No big deal. So here's Eddie with Michael McDonald. Enjoy this, and then you'll catch the interview, and I'll see you on the other side. Today's guest on Groove Diner After Dark. It's interesting. Sometimes you get to meet people that are truly legends in your field. Today's one of those days. Eddie Tuduri. What a story. What a career. We're going to cover as much as we can in the next few minutes because you guys are going to want to hear this. We're going to have him back next season. That's how good the stories are, okay? And Eddie doesn't even know that part yet.
What stories?
I know, right?
We've invited ourselves back.
Yes, we have.
You told me I couldn't tell those kind of stories.
Well, some of them you can. We actually took the road trip up. We took the road trip up to Santa Barbara to Eddie's place. Thanks for having us, Eddie. Welcome to the Groove Diner. Welcome to
it's not me, it's the coffee. I know. I know it's my cappuccino.
The cappuccino was serious, man. It seriously, it's kind of weird to be at the Groove Diner, but at your house.
Yeah.
But we'll go with that.
Next time you get meatballs.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm not famous for anything but my sauce and the meatballs.
You know, we've got a few hours yet.
Well, you'll need 3 days for my sauce.
Oh yeah, that's
Ask
a little
Vinny.
much. 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah. People have to, I don't know what Sting or anyone else pays Vinny to play, but I get him for 3 meatballs.
3 meatballs.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. We have a lot to talk about. We really do. And I suppose the truth is I want to hear about your drumming past as much as I want to hear about your current and future with trap. We certainly want to talk about the Rhythmic Arts Project and what that means to you, what it's meant to so many people around the world. Mm-hmm. But I want to know about Eddie the drummer. Let's back up. 60s, I assume, is when you began.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about what the formative years were. And I know you started when you were 8 months old.
I was 12. I did my first gig, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, I played at a wedding. I remember my dad took me and helped me set up.
No kidding.
Yeah, it was fun. It was for this Ed Stan Music was the music store in Derby, Connecticut.
Okay.
And there weren't any drummers in Derby. I was the best drummer in Derby.
At 12.
That's right. Okay. I was also the only
drummer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was my first gig, and then there were a lot of real formative years and kids in the neighborhood, and
sure.
We had a lot of fun. We had a band with some other Italian kids in my neighborhood, and we played at the local theaters. And I remember the band was called the Electrons, and then they called me the Little Neutron, and to put a Day-Glo paint on my sticks and make me do drum solos.
Oh, that's fantastic.
With Day-Glo lamps.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it was fun. It was really fun.
What kind of music did you play?
In those days, it was instrumentals. No one in that band sang.
Okay.
And then the next band was kind of there were a lot of different bands.
Sure.
I had a record deal at 16.
Did you?
With a band called the East Coast Journeymen. I don't know why we couldn't think of another name.
Well, that's a name.
And we were signed to Roulette Records in New York. And we had a song called Down, Down, Down.
Okay.
And it went down and off the charts before it ever. But all our friends in our little town, everybody knew it, and it was great. I mean, you could hear yourself for the first time on the radio.
Oh, right. I remember that moment.
It was thrilling.
Of course.
Really thrilling.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another. I mean, fast forward a little bit, I was with another band from Bridgeport, and we worked around, and we got a call to do, there was a band years and years ago, I'm even really dating myself, but it was called Cannibal and the Headhunters.
Okay.
They were from here.
Okay.
From East LA.
Got it.
And they had a band, they had a #1 record called Land of a Thousand Dances.
Sure, I know that song.
La, la, la. So we asked to tour with them, and the last part of that tour was a Murray the K show at the Brooklyn Fox.
Okay.
Murray the K was the DJ who brought the Beatles to America.
No kidding.
He was very famous in those days.
Right.
He had everyone listened to Murray the K, And this show went on for 10 days at Christmas time. It was in 1965.
Right.
I was about 17.
Yeah.
And it was an R&B show, which was the music I played.
Sure.
And I knew when all the other kids were growing their hair long, and I had I had my hair dyed black, and in a DA I wore patent leather shoes and sharkskin suits, and played rhythm and blues.
Nice.
And this gig was Wilson Pickett, and he had the #1 record, which was Midnight Hour.
Of course.
At the time, and then the OJs, the Spinners, all black groups, Lenny Welsh,
Right.
the Toys, and then because Murray was always bringing English groups in, he had Peter and Gordon, he had Chad and Jeremy, he had like all these English groups came
Sure.
in, and they were sprinkled in between the R&B show. We had a great big band, and we were all in suits, and then all these other cats were, in hippies,
Right.
hippie looking. Anyway, that was a really cool show. It's the first time I really played for a big audience.
Nice. I'd like to know, as a Connecticut, New York guy, what brought you to the West Coast? I mean, it seems that New York would have been the obvious.
It was. Yeah, they will
choice.
chirp. That's Billy and Betty Boop behind you. The New York was the lure, absolutely, in the beginning. I mean, we played at all the Trudy Hellers and all the New York clubs,
Sure.
with local bands.
Right.
We played in all these cool gigs around Pennsylvania, Massachusetts,
Right.
and New York,
Yeah.
and it ended in the 10 days at the Murray the K show at the Brooklyn Fox.
That's amazing.
Which was really amazing. And they had the McCoys. They had "Hang On, Sloopy." It was
Yeah, I remember
Rick Derringer's first band.
I remember that. Sure, I
So-
know that song.
For some reason, I didn't have my drums. I thought that the drums would be provided. It was a big pit band in New York, right?
Right.
And the guy wanted $50 a day for the drum. I said, I can't. That's more than I make. This is 1965.
Right.
So the kid in the McCoy said, "You could use my drums, Eddie." I said, "Oh, great." So this was our first day out on stage, right? He didn't sit down. He stood up and played, and he kept his hi-hat shut. And
Really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. They were like, "Hang on," so,
okay.
and he shook his head,
Right.
and that was it. So I go out and we're using the whole big band.
Sure.
And Cannibal is like, they're incredible. They do this dance routine, and the drummer has to kick all the everything.
Yeah.
And I run out on stage, and there's nowhere to sit, and they're about to open the curtain, and I'm going, So somebody ran out with a chair, right? And I sat down, and then I didn't realize that there was a giant horn section. So the beginning of that song is you gotta know how to pony. So it would start out da 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 da,
Right.
just like a vamp da 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 da.
Right.
Then they'd come dancing across the floor, right? And then they go, "You gotta know how to pony," and the horn section went.
Right, those hits, right.
It almost knocked me off my chair. It scared me.
I bet.
It really scared me. I went, "Oh my God!" And then and then it was cool.
Right.
But that was really exciting for me. And we stayed upstairs from the show because we do a show, then all these other people would come down. They play with the orchestra.
Yeah.
And it went on every day for 10 days.
No
And
kidding.
then they kind of took me under wing because I was young, and
Yeah.
I hung around with Wilson Pickett's band.
Sure.
The drummer Buzzy Benson, and Ernest X. Smith was the bass player, and they were really great. I mean, that's where you learn how to play.
Absolutely.
We study, we learn, we go to our teacher every week. That's all really very important.
Mm-hmm.
But man, when you can get out and I still play grooves that Buzzy taught me when I was 17.
There you go.
I mean, that was the stuff.
We were talking off camera about, I mentioned that I had played something with Abel Boreal, and that was the moment I learned about pocket.
Right.
Right. It was that moment. It wasn't
Yeah.
all the studies. It was when I played with somebody whose pocket was this huge.
Oh my God, yeah. Gosh.
That's a completely different
What a
ballgame.
dream gig that was.
So what brought you ultimately to LA?
Well, after that that band broke. Oh, you know, these bands get together,
Yeah,
they break up,
of
they get
course.
together, they break up. I was in a band, remnants of other bands. We put this band together, and we were called Smack. We
Okay.
thought that was cool. And
Did it have an exclamation point? Smack. It should have,
There was
right?
there was a different thing we used to call Smack in those days.
Oh, I know. Oh, yes,
Anyway.
indeed it was. Okay,
All right,
fair
we're
enough.
keeping this clean, right?
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, we had this band around town, and one day this guy shows up. He's older than us. He plays keyboards and Hammond B3, and his name's Jay. And Jay kind of infiltrated the band. It was a local band, and we were popular because it was a small town, and
Sure.
you know, we played at all the block dances.
Of course.
And everybody liked us. And this guy came and he thought, if I can steer them in the right direction, this could be a band. I could take over the band, and you know. And he was so good.
Mm-hmm.
He was older and wiser, and just really knew how to play. And he did, in fact, do that. He took the band over. And we had to let our keyboard player go. And when he got in the band really changed. It was amazing how much how much direction he gave us, and how we changed,
Sure.
and how we learned about how to play in the pocket,
Sure.
and how we learned not to overplay, and not to, you know, don't play a fill there. That's a flaw in the groove.
Right.
Don't do that, you know. So he just he wasn't all that nice about it. He was a
Right.
New Yorker, you know, and he'd say, "Don't play that. What's wrong with you?"
Right.
And I would be like, well, you know, what do you mean, man? He said, you know, this guy's playing a solo or they're singing. When the vocalists come in, bring it down.
Right.
You know, let's learn about dynamics. Let's learn about where the backbeat falls. But he was demanding, and
Sure.
we were younger, and I was all ears, and I wanted to learn, so I did what I was told.
That's astonishing that you were all ears when you were young, because
Yeah.
usually when we're super young, we're all just full of ego
We're
and
super
arrogance.
young, but when
and-
we look at an older player who's
Yeah.
way better than
Yeah, yeah,
us, and
yeah.
we want to be like him when
Yeah.
we grow up,
Yeah.
you know, that's what this
That
was.
makes
This was,
perfect sense.
you know, I played with him later on in life with this guitar player named Joe Campisi. He was also from upstate New York.
Okay.
Oh my God, I learned more from those two guys than I did from any drummer.
I believe it. Yeah.
They were, you know, Danny Weiss is another guitar player I played with extensively
Mm-hmm.
over the years, and he was originally known for, he was in the Iron Butterfly,
No kidding.
the original guy in the
Yeah,
Iron
you gotta
Butterfly.
be.
And then Rhinoceros, which was a great band, funky band back in the 60s. And Bette Midler, he was in the movie The Rose.
Yeah.
And Danny was a great player. And that's how I ended up in Canada playing with that band, the Lincolns.
No kidding.
And and between him and Joe Campisi, and ultimately Chris Pinnock, who I work with now, I've been working with Chris for 50 years.
Sure.
They taught me more about drumming than drummers did. I didn't really listen to, I mean, you're a great drummer, you've been around a long time. You don't listen to, you don't necessarily listen to like someone like, I don't know, Steve Smith or Vinny or Gad or Weckl and say, yeah, I want to do that.
Not anymore.
Not really.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you want to be, I mean, if you're anything like I was, I never wanted to be a star. I wanted to be in a band
Right.
that were stars. I wanted to be
Yeah.
in a real band to
For
be
sure.
part of it. And I didn't want to, I can't play with like those other guys,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So after you grow up and you learn
Yes.
your place and everyone's beat you up enough that you start actually playing drums
That's so true.
for the music,
Yeah.
you know, and you're not flailing and
Right.
showing off, you know. And these guys that are older, that you respect, that you look up to, they're teaching you.
Mm-hmm.
And those New York guys, they weren't very nice, like I said,
Yeah.
you know. And I would almost cower, you know, and
Sure.
go, okay, you know, and play right.
Sure.
And then go, okay, that's good.
I-
A little farther, but little back. No, there you go. You know. So, I mean, a lot of guys think that, you know. I mean, I listened to Joe Morello when I was a kid,
yeah.
and all the jazz greats, and and then love Bernard Purdie,
Sure.
and GDAD, and Jeff Porcaro. We were friends. All those guys were friends of mine. You learn a lot just listening and being around them. Jim Keltner. Gosh, we could go on and on and on. There's so many great guys.
It's funny. I remember the shockwaves that went through everyone when Porcaro died.
Oh yeah.
And I was in high school, maybe college, early college, I think it was, when that happened, and it was even then at the University of Alabama. I remember all of us kind of grouped together, all of this group of drummers that all knew each other, because you know how it is. Drummers know each other.
Yeah.
We all of us were just stricken for a week about that, and it was.
Were you at the funeral?
No, I was in Alabama at the time.
Oh,
so not out here yet.
It was such a wonderful tribute.
I saw the.
You read Robin's book?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I have Robin's book.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. You're out here. I'm going to take a look at. I mean, the people you work with, Bill Champlin.
Forever. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's just unbelievable. Martha Reeves.
Yeah.
Steve Perry. Engelbert Humperdinck. I love that one mostly because I have other friends that have played with him. So that smile, I know what that's about.
Yeah, we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Rick Nelson was really a great guy.
Nice.
He was kind to everyone. He was probably the biggest star I've worked with, maybe next to the Beach Boys.
That was a big one.
The Beach Boys were pretty big, but Rick had sold 100 million records, and he was just a beautiful man. Everybody loved him, but he was just as calm and accommodating, and no ego.
Nice.
None. And he was really, really smart. He played and sang and wrote beautifully. He didn't really get credit for that.
Right.
The stuff I've recorded with him, and I have a lot of stuff, is some of the best I've ever, and it's simple.
Sure.
It's not, there's nothing fancy about it, but the Tom Brumley on steel, oh my God, he was the best steel player in the world.
Sure, right.
And then Jay and Dennis, bass and guitar, and they taught me, because I didn't really know how to play country at all.
Right.
And Rick helped me. Like, how, like, I swing everything on the hi-hat.
Sure.
I play an R&B thing. So a lot of country guys would hire me because when I played with them, they said, "Well, that's so cool."
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks later, they're going, "You're not playing that right." I said, "No, I don't. I never did. I don't even know how.
Right.
You hired me because you liked the way I sounded, but I haven't got a clue."
Well,
and they'd say, well, they'd either fire me or I'd have to leave. After a while, after a year and a half, he said, "Eddie, would you mind quitting?" I said, "What?" He says, "Well, I don't want to fire you, but Hello, Mary Lou is starting to sound like a James Brown tune." So, and I have TV shows I did with him where you could hear that. My friends, Jimmy Calhoun is a bass player I work with forever. He was just great, funky, incredible man, incredible bass player.
Wow, that's amazing.
Every time he sees that, the Dinah Shore show, there's a piece there. They play it once in a while. He calls me and just laughs. He doesn't say anything. He just laughs and hangs up.
You're going to have to send me a link to that so I can see
All
that.
right.
Yeah, for sure. I got to check that out.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
You've had this career where the number of people that you've played with it's like reading a stack of records. It's my record collection. And I'm always astounded by that, from Michael McDonald and Kenny Loggins and so many different people. Then in 97 something happened that changed your life and introduced you to a whole new part of your life.
Yeah.
Tell me an abbreviated version of that.
I was on the road with Jimmy Messina. We had just done a record in Nashville, and we both decided to move back here. Mm-hmm. And when I moved here, I was staying with Jimmy for a minute, and then I found a really cool little apartment in Carpinteria, right across from the beach.
Just down the road.
Yeah, and I love the ocean. I was at the ocean every day, and I love body surfing.
Sure.
So I was out there every day, and one Saturday I was at the beach, and I was about 20 yards out, and Carpinteria is not known for big waves, but it was during El Nino, and the currents and the waves were a little bit, they weren't falling or breaking
Right.
as usual. And I jumped in this wave, and it just pounded me into the bottom. I was 20 yards out, nobody there, all alone. It snapped my neck, and I was totally paralyzed and 3 feet underwater.
Wow.
Nobody there.
Yeah.
And I thought, I had this a near-death experience, which is really difficult. Words always pale the experience.
I can imagine.
But in short, it was, I started floating towards this whole other world. It was, there was someone there going, okay, it's time, come on.
Sure.
You know, like a spirit guide, as they say.
Right.
And the only thing that comes close for me is it's like being in God's hot tub. It was such a beautiful feeling. I certainly didn't want to go back.
Just as a sidebar, if you don't do a solo record and call it God's Hot Tub, I'm never going to speak to you again.
Well, my new record, actually, that Greg Sutton and I wrote, is called Rubbing Shoulders with Angels.
Okay, we'll take that.
I'll play it for you. It's great. We just recorded it.
So God's Hot Tub.
So I'm in God's hot tub, yeah. And I could see this beautiful path unfolding in front of me. It was like this unconditional love, whatever that is. It was, you know, I had a dog for 15 years. His name was Bach. There's a picture of him on the wall over there. He and I were really close.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody who's got a dog or has had a dog, if you look in that dog's eyes, it's like there's so much love that we humans would never even approach it.
That's right.
So when people ask me, what was it like? It finally came to me. It was like falling into my dog's eyes.
Oh, wow.
I was in a place that was, I'm getting goosebumps.
I see, yeah.
And I thought, okay, I have to open my mouth and get rid of this cage so that I can continue on this journey. So I said, that means I'll have to drown. But okay, great.
Right.
Great, let me do it. So I opened my mouth to let the water in, so I could continue. And I felt a hand lift me from the bottom and then gently carry me and place me at the shore, very gently.
Yeah.
Broken. I had the sixth vertebra had totally herniated,
Right.
and was pressing against the spinal cord. So 5 and 7,
Right.
6. Now I looked at every case scenario afterwards and thought, I have friends, being with a severe spinal cord injury, I have friends that were quadriplegics and paraplegics, and they, you know, it's so very serious, and usually it only takes, you only have to move this much and you're a goner.
Yeah.
So I was so far out that, you know, this whole story of how it unfolded and what I experienced is true for me. I don't expect anyone else to believe it.
Absolutely.
I hardly ever talk about it. You ask me.
And I want to hear it,
Yeah,
for sure.
so I looked at every scenario, and there's no way I could have been, so people said, a wave brought you in.
Right.
There's no way, because the disc was completely herniated, pushing against. Had it moved this much, I would be dead.
Right.
Or a complete quad.
Right.
So that didn't happen. So I'm lying there, and the lifeguard with the most seniority on the Central Coast happened to be on duty.
Right.
He said, "Can you move?" I said, "No, not." I said, "Not at all." He said, "Okay." And he was a brilliant guy. Put surfboards up all around me so the waves wouldn't come over.
Right.
Just kept everybody said, "Don't touch him."
Right.
Called the paramedics. The paramedic with the most seniority on the Central Coast happened to be on duty on a Saturday.
Right.
He came down, they handled me. Now that's when most the tragedies occur, because they're not handled properly.
Yeah, sure.
So they put me in the ambulance, and I was telling jokes. I mean, I had such a great experience when I came back.
Yeah.
So I was in the ambulance, and there, I was stabilized, and I was telling the guys, I said, you know, the other paramedics, I said, you know, I'm a drummer, so I could do different things with all 4 limbs. I said, right now I'm just a head. And I laughed, right? And they they laughed nervously, like, this poor guy doesn't realize he's a quad, you know.
Right.
So they get me to the hospital and they roll me in to the best neurosurgeon on the Central Coast, happened to be on duty.
Right.
He said, I'll take this guy. We went in, they did an emergency operation, the MRI, emergency operation.
Sure.
Took a bone out of my hip, fused 5, 6, and 7. Metal plate, 4 screws. I woke up the next morning in the ICU. And there were angels everywhere. It was so ethereal.
I'm sure.
That nobody believed me. I just stopped talking about it. It was beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
Wow.
And I was in there, long story short, a week, and then went to the rehab. In the rehab, I was still totally paralyzed.
Right.
I was just a head, and I kept making jokes about I'm just a head, you know. And but because of the near-death experience, I wasn't afraid. There was no trepidation. I knew I was going to be all right.
Wow.
Everyone was saying, you know, this guy is very serious and
Yeah, sure.
complete quad.
Sure.
And I was saying, no, I'm fine. Believe me, I'm going to be fine.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God, you know. So they treat patients in the round.
Right.
All the doctors and therapists in various disciplines and the psychiatrist, everybody meets and they look at your chart and they say, okay, what can we do for Eddie?
Sure.
And then what can you do for Eddie? And what can the physical therapist, the occupational, you know. So, and that's how this multidisciplinary team puts you back together again.
Sure.
It's a beautiful thing. So they, you know, like one of my physical therapists who taught me how to walk when I could, who I had breakfast with this morning.
No kidding.
Vika, yeah, we're best friends.
Yeah.
I love her.
Sure.
And you know, years and years later, I said, tell me the truth, right? Because you were in those rounds when she said, yeah, we thought you were a goner.
No
Everybody did.
Wow.
You would never walk and probably never have, you know, normal bodily functions or anything like that. I said, well, I kept telling you guys. She says, I know. After a couple of months there, in my various disciplines, I remember she was like looking, she would be in front of me, I'd be in my wheelchair, and she'd be measuring my feet. How can you move this way or that way? And I kept telling her, this is such a waste of time. I'm going to walk. And I could see it in her eyes. She's the most beautiful woman. And I could see her compassion, but she wasn't believing me, right? So one day, like the parallel bars were just across from us, and one day I said, Vika, just roll me over there. I knew I could stand up. I hadn't told anybody that yet. I said, put me on the parallel bars, and you go down the other end, and I'll walk to you. So I could see she was like, okay, I'm going to have to let this guy fall on his butt so that we can make him realize that this is serious, and we need to teach him how to live in this new normal for him. Yeah. So she did it. She rolled me over. She went to the other end. She was standing there. I was standing there. I didn't know if I could do it yet, but
you knew.
Yeah. And I took 2 steps. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and we both started bawling.
I bet.
She ran over to me, and we hugged each other. And I said, okay, no more of the measuring my feet. And I said, teach me how to walk, because when you lose your legs, you don't remember.
Sure.
We learned it when we were a year old.
Right.
You know, the gait, heel to toe, pressure, how your hips move and your shoulders move another way. There's this whole dynamic, the whole mechanics of walking.
Right.
I had to learn over. And you know, I obviously never came back 100%. So for me, it's like 1,000%.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
Given what they were predicting.
I mean, I don't even know what to say at the end of that story. Obviously, you know why I wanted to have 2 episodes of this story, because this is only halfway. His story about his recovery from being a quadriplegic is only part of the story. He's just one of the most amazing guys that I've ever met, and I can't wait for you to see part 2 next week. In the meantime, hey, take a look at my life. This is Eddie's book. We're going to put up an Amazon link here for you guys, so help him out, support him a little bit. You're going to want to know about what he's doing next, so you can get the book via Amazon this week. Grab it, read it. You're going to love it. And next week's interview, the remainder of next week's of the interview next week, is all about what's in this book, The Rhythmic Arts Project. You're not going to believe, or maybe you will, what this man has done with his life. He's an inspiration through and through, as you could see, and just one of the funniest guys ever. I had such a good time with him. I know I'm rambling a bit, but that's what kind of energy he had. And Eli and I were driving back from Santa Barbara from his place, and we just couldn't stop talking about the amazing time that we had hanging out with him and getting to know him and hear his stories, plural. So yeah, it's pretty amazing to me that I get to do this as a gig every week. So thank you, Eddie, for sharing your time and your stories with us. I can't wait for you guys to see next week's continuation. In the meantime, guess what it is? Sorry, like I said, it's me by myself tonight. Guess what it's time for now? Well, like I told you, Eli couldn't be here tonight with me. This is 2 weeks now in a row. And I wanted to tell you guys that Eli lost his father this weekend. Michael Jarrah passed away. And he's with his family in Michigan, being with his mother, who has, by the way, adopted me. So I'll take that. They're a very, very tight-knit Lebanese family. And I really just kind of want to go eat lots of food. But I know that your heart as watchers and viewers of the show go out to Eli and his family, and certainly mine do as well, and Natalie's. Eli's part of my family, as you've probably figured out by now. And so I wanted to let you guys know what was going on. The show's going to look a little different for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're going to take a quick little break to regroup a bit, but not until sometime next month. But I wanted to let you guys know what was going on with Eli and his family. And Eli, I love you and your whole family, and I'm very sorry for your loss. I know you're watching tonight, so thank you. And I'm already seeing condolences coming up on the screen here. So I know you've got an awful lot of people around the country and the world who are sending their condolences, thoughts, prayers, and everything else under the sun. So thank you so much for being part of my life and for bringing your family into my family. Yeah, there's Eli saying thank you. Everybody, I see everybody over here, Kendall and Toby, and thank you so much, everybody. Renee's here for saying hi. So now, let's talk a little bit about. We had a few more comments and questions that came in last week, and I put them on a screen over here so that I could have just a few of them. There were a few that really caught my eye. I think this was from Veronica Ebert. Forgive me, Veronica, if this is not yours, but I think it was. This question was one of the better ones that I've seen in a long, long time. Do you ever need a break from your music? And if so, what is your preferred method of relaxation and or remotivation? Well, that's a big question, because the answer for me is I absolutely need a break from my music from time to time. It is a very big deal to me to take and cleanse the palate. So what I do is I step away completely. I quite literally won't listen to anything in the car. I'll have it silent. I'll just open the sunroof and listen to the wind. I almost never listen to music in general now. Just because it is my job. So when I listen, I tend to be very actively listening. You know, I don't sleep very well like most musicians. I'm quite an insomniac. And I think one of the things people say, we should put on some music. Really? No, musicians don't want to listen to music while we're trying to go to sleep. It engages our brain. So what I do to try to find inspiration again is, Toby's saying Star Wars. There's some truth to that. I will watch movies. I'm a giant movie, but buff is not even the right word. I'm a movie fanatic on some level. I will watch as much as I can. I love to swim, so I'll hit the pool if I can. Right now it's too cold, but I like to do things that physically engage me. It's always interesting watching myself on camera, because I see how my clothes are hanging and things like that. It's like, wait, it's like, I don't know how to fix all these things that I'm seeing, because I'm a pretty fit guy. And it's always interesting to me to see how musical breaks and fitness breaks go hand in hand. I know that seems weird, but they do. And I will typically try to find other things to insert myself into, physical fitness stuff like swimming, or I do still love to rollerblade. I'll go rollerblading at the park or hiking, things that engage my body in a different way than playing drums. Because as you know, drumming is a very, very, very physical activity. I mean, they say that 2 hours of drumming is not unlike someone running a marathon with calorie expenditure. And I can completely see that. So I hope that answers your question. That's what I do. And typically when I come back, I may not have played drums in 3 weeks, but when I come back, all of a sudden it's like, bleh, and all of the ideas and stuff that I had just kind of go everywhere. So it's a good thing to take that break, not even necessarily touch the drums. One other thing that I do is that I will take drum lessons. I'm doing that right now with David Stanek. And one little conversation in the middle of a lesson. I'm not taking lessons to learn how to play paradiddles. You know, I'm taking lessons for concept stuff. Let me try that word again. For concept stuff. To try to figure out ways of approaching playing that maybe I hadn't thought of before. And so I will often take, well, for instance, I was talking about the fact that there's something wrong with my beat 3. And it was one little comment that David made about my bass drum foot that made me go, oh, you're right. You know, so it's things like that that help me come back to it and have a greater appreciation for music. So I hope that answers your question. This was a great one. Reggie, I think this is yours. So the zombie apocalypse starts and you can only keep one snare drum for every session that you do now. Which one are you keeping and why? I don't know for sure that I could narrow it down to one. I could narrow it down to 2. So I need to put them both in the backpack, if that's okay. I don't think I could do one. I would say the 5x14 DW Craviotto solid shell maple is drum 1A, and drum 1B is my 6.5x14 black nickel over brass DW. Those are the 2 workhorse drums that I have sitting here or at my other kit pretty much all the time. And I have 20 odd snares over there. Those are the 2 that get most of the work. I can't really narrow it down to those 2, but the rest of your question was why. The 5x14 covers a range that the 6.5x14 doesn't quite cover. The 6.5x14, it's not about lower pitched and whatnot. You can pitch down a 3-inch drum. But the 5-inch drum has a certain feel to it and a certain woodiness, because it is in fact wood, that the 6.5 doesn't. But then the 6.5 has a certain throatiness that the 5 doesn't. So those are the two workhorses. I hope that answers your question. Yes, Reggie's saying there is such a thing as a side snare. So yeah, okay, we'll go with that. Absolutely. Yeah, refresh and replenish. That's exactly right. Oh, hey, Veronica, you are here. Good day to you down under. Can I say that? Is that okay for me to say, since you are in Australia after all? Thanks so much for saying hi like you always do. It's really great to have you guys. I think that's almost everything, but I do have one fairly sizable announcement here for you. I have to grab this down here. This beautiful drum set of mine, this one, yeah, this guy here, maple spruce, 9 pieces, 10 pieces, a bunch of drums, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20, and 22. Exotic finish with gold hardware is for sale. With the full knowledge and blessing of DW Drums, the company, I will be selling this drum set to fund something else with DW. We're doing a little something, and the reason is that you might see something different next week if you tune in. This kit it's time for it to find a new home, and if you're interested in it, hit me up. You know how to find me on Facebook and whatnot. I'm pretty easy to find. Let me know if you're interested. I'll be glad to talk with you about it, and we can figure something out. But in the meantime, I really hope you have a great week. This was such a fun episode. I can't believe it's been a full year. Thank you for that. This show has been so wonderful to me through the pandemic, and you guys, the viewers, are why it's been so great. I thank you so much for spending your time with us every week. And people that watch tomorrow, as you know, we have a few hundred that watch tonight, and then a few thousand that watch over the next 4 or 5 days. Thank you so much for being part of this world. It means the world to me. If you ever see me on the street, say hi. I won't bite. I promise. I promise. But you know, it's always one of those things where each week I feel like you invite me to the party. And this week was definitely a party. I can't wait for you to see next week's part 2 with Eddie Tuduri. Until then, have a great week.